Hello there, dear friend. Isn't it funny how many stories we store in our garages? Old chairs missing a leg curtain, rods from a different decade, umbrellas that no longer open. Most folks might see junk. But you and I, we've learned something with time. We've learned that beauty doesn't always come in a box or with a shiny label. Sometimes it hides in the rusted, the weathered, and the forgotten. This morning, as the light spilled through my kitchen window and the birds began their soft chatter, I stepped out with a warm cup of tea and looked around my little garden. It's not the biggest or the fanciest, but oh, it holds a kind of peace that money can't buy. And as I looked closer, I saw all the second chances blooming: an old ladder holding up peas, a rake head cradling oregano, a bicycle wheel that now grows morning glories like jewelry on a crown. That's what we're going to explore together today. A gentle walk through 25 recycled garden trellis ideas, all born from things most folks might have tossed out. But not you. Not us. Because you don't need youth money or perfection to grow something beautiful. All you need is a bit of care, a touch of imagination, and maybe a forgotten suitcase or two. So go ahead, get cozy, settle in, and let's stroll together through a garden of transformations. This isn't just DIY. This is a celebration of what still has life left in it. And that, my dear friend, includes you. Do you remember those wire coat hangers from the dry cleaners? The kind that used to multiply in closets like rabbits, always slightly bent, always a little awkward to hang clothes on. Well, before you send them off to the recycling bin or worse, the landfill. Let me share a little secret. Those humble hangers are actually delicate threads of possibility, waiting to become art in your garden. There's a quiet kind of magic in taking something so ordinary and giving it a new role. Start by gathering a few wire hangers, 5, 10, maybe more depending on how ambitious you're feeling. Using a pair of pliers, gently straighten them out. It doesn't have to be perfect. The slight bends and quirks add character. Then begin reshaping them into spirals, diamonds, or soft flowing waves. You're not just making a plant support, you're creating sculpture. Once you've shaped your hangers, link them together by twisting their ends with more wire or tying them gently with twine. You can fasten this design to a wooden stake, hang it like a curtain from an old fence panel, or simply prop it in a sunny corner where morning glories or sweet peas can begin their gentle climb. What makes this idea so special isn't just how thrifty or lightweight it is, it's how you shape it. No two trellises will ever be the same. Some might zigzag skyward like lightning, others might bloom outward in a sunburst. That's the beauty of it. It's yours. And because wire hangers are thin and gentle, they're perfect for light climbers, nasturtiums, snap peas, or climbing herbs. The vines will wrap themselves gracefully around your design like they were meant to be together all along. You may even find yourself staring at it before anything grows, admiring the soft geometry you made from yesterday's clutter. Sometimes that's the quiet joy of aging. We see what others miss. Not trash, not uselessness. Just something waiting to be bent a little, shaped gently, and given purpose. That's how we grow too, isn't it? Bent, but never broken. Twisted a little, but still strong. Still able to hold something beautiful. Still capable of becoming something more. There's something so sturdy, so dependable about an old garden fence. Even when the wood has weathered or the metal has rusted a bit, it still stands there quietly, offering support, framing memories, and holding the stories of seasons past. But what happens when you replace a fence panel or find one leaning against a shed no longer needed for its original job? Well, my dear friend, that's when the real magic begins. An old fence panel, whether wood wire mesh or chain link, makes an absolutely wonderful trellis. It already knows how to stand tall, how to support, how to weather storms. And now, instead of marking boundaries, it can help plants grow. If you have a wooden picket panel, you're already halfway there. The vertical slats are perfectly spaced for climbing plants like peas, pole beans, or even decorative morning glories. Prop it up against an existing wall or use a couple of garden stakes to secure it freestanding. And if it has horizontal supports, they double as little shelves, ideal for hanging planters or lanterns, to give your garden some soft evening charm. Wire or chain link sections are even more ready-made. The grid pattern is ideal for vines, offering dozens of little spaces for tendrils to twist and twine. The galvanized coating holds up to rain, sun, and wind, no need for extra protection. Just lean it, secure it, and plant. Here's a gentle tip from these old hands to yours: try angling the panels slightly instead of keeping it perfectly upright. A soft slant helps the sunlight reach your plants more evenly, and it's much easier on the back when it's time to prune or harvest. No crouching, no stretching, just peaceful tending. And that patina, the weathered gray of old wood or the rusty red of aged metal, it's garden gold. Designers pay extra for finishes like that, but here you are with authenticity at your fingertips. The marks of time aren't flaws, they're stories. Imagine climbing roses, threading through the lattice, their petals catching the light like a page from a fairy tale. Or imagine purple beans dangling like ornaments from an old chain-link panel, turning what was once a backyard border into a vertical feast. You didn't throw it away, you looked again, you saw potential, and now your garden tells the story not just of plants, but of wisdom, patience, and the grace of giving something a second life. Now let's wander into the realm of the unexpected: your bathroom. Yes, you read that right. You see, one of the most charming trellis ideas I've ever tried didn't come from a garden center. It came from the back of a closet, dusty and forgotten, wedged behind a stack of towels. It was an old metal shower caddy, the kind that used to hang over the shower head, holding shampoo bottles, soap, and perhaps a rusty razor or two. Once useful, now obsolete. Or so I thought. But out in the garden, that same shower caddy became a vertical growing wonder. Here's how to make it yours. First, clean it up with a soft brush and a little warm water. If it's starting to rust, all the better. That vintage charm is priceless. Now mount it on a fence post the side of your garden shed, or even a wooden stake driven into the soil. The hooks that once held loofahs now support twine, and the shelves that used to cradle soap are perfect for trailing herbs and petite planters. Think of it as tiered gardening for the seasoned soul. Basil on the top, oregano spilling over the side, a touch of mint at the base. Maybe even cherry tomatoes twining around the sides for a burst of color and flavor. Each shelf becomes its own little growing zone, like a botanical apartment building for your plants. What makes this idea so wonderfully senior-friendly is how accessible it is. You don't need to bend, kneel, or reach too high. Everything is within arm's reach, thoughtfully arranged, beautifully compact, and easy to maintain. It's a small garden miracle for patios, porches, or even sunny indoor nooks. And there's something else. There's a quiet joy in watching something that once helped us stay clean now help our gardens grow. It's more than recycling, it's poetic. That old shower caddy, once taken for granted, now stands tall again, cradling life-catching sunlight and giving you daily reminders that usefulness never truly disappears. It just changes form. And isn't that a comforting thought? Have you ever passed by an old window at a yard sale, one with flaking paint, maybe missing a pane or two, and felt a strange tug at your heart? Almost like it was trying to whisper something through its frame. Windows, after all, are built to offer a view. And just because they no longer look out onto a room doesn't mean they've lost their purpose. In the garden, they can become something entirely new, a trellis that holds not just plants, but stories. Start by finding an old window frame. No need for glass, though. If some remains and it's intact, you can always use it elsewhere in your garden. The frame itself is what we're after. Clean it up gently, preserving as much of the aged character as you like. A little chipped paint here, a weathered corner there, those are marks of life well lived. Next, stretch something across the open panes. Chicken wire works well, or garden mesh, or even bits of decorative metal fencing. Use staples or small screws to secure it tightly across the back. What you now have is a living canvas, a rectangle of possibility just waiting to be adorned with nature's brush strokes. Lean your new trellis against a garden wall, tuck it into a corner beside your potting bench, or even secure it between two posts for a freestanding vertical element. Then plant something tender at its feet. Sweet peas are perfect, romantic, fragrant, and eager to climb. Or perhaps scarlet runner beans for bold color and edible blooms. But here's the beauty: as your vines twist upward through those panes, the frame begins to tell a new story. Maybe once it looked out over a kitchen sink where someone washed dishes and watched children play. Maybe it came from a farmhouse on a country road. Now it offers a window into a new world, one where blossoms frame the sky and tendrils curl like poetry. Every time you walk by it, you're reminded nothing is ever too old to be beautiful again. We may grow older, but like these frames, our structure still holds. We still catch the light. We still offer beauty to whatever surrounds us. Remember that old wooden ladder tucked away in the shed, the one with paint splatters on the rungs and maybe a slight wobble when you climb it. It might no longer be safe for high shelves, but out in the garden it still has a job to do. A beautiful one, in fact. There's something so satisfying about turning something once practical into something poetic. A wooden ladder in all its humble simplicity becomes one of the most charming and effective trellises you could ask for. There are two lovely ways to use it. The first is the simplest. Just lean it gently against a wall, a fence, or even a large container. Each rung becomes a stepping stone for vines to reach toward the sky. Beans, cucumbers, morning glories, even grapevines, all will happily twine upward, turning your ladder into a staircase of green. The second method is even more delightful. Open the ladder into an A-frame and place it directly in your garden bed. Now you have a freestanding trellis with double the support plants can grow up both sides. Picture cucumbers climbing one face while nasturtiums or sweet peas trail down the other. It's like a green pyramid rising from your soil. And let's not forget the aesthetic. That weathered wood, the cracks, the faded finish, the story it tells, adds rustic charm to any garden. A new trellis from the store might be straight and shiny, but your ladder holds history. Maybe it helped you hang curtains in your first apartment. Maybe it was your spouse's go-to tool during weekend projects. Now it's a monument to memory and growth. You can leave it natural, or if your garden leans toward whimsy, give it a coat of sage green or robin's egg blue. Add tiny hanging baskets from the rungs. Wrap fairy lights around the legs. It's not just a support, it's a centerpiece. And here's something especially meaningful for those of us with aging hands and backs. This ladder trellis lifts the garden up to you. No stooping or crawling. You can tend to your vines at eye-level prune with ease and simply enjoy watching your plants grow right before your eyes. That old ladder served you once. And now, in the golden season of life, it serves again faithfully, holding the weight of new things blooming. Do you remember the first time you, or perhaps your child or grandchild, rode a bike down the street with the wind in your face and the wheels humming on the pavement? There's something timeless about a bicycle. Even when its riding days are long gone, one part of it can still keep moving forward in the garden. Yes, I'm talking about the wheel. A single rusty bicycle wheel, especially one with its spokes still intact, can become one of the most eye-catching and surprisingly functional trellises you'll ever use. And the best part, it costs nothing but a little creativity and a memory or two. Here's how to turn this forgotten piece of metal into a growing masterpiece. Start by mounting the wheel vertically onto a strong garden stake or fence post. If you're securing it to wood, a couple of outdoor screws through the rim will do the trick. For metal stakes, use heavy-duty zip ties or wire. The key is to make sure it's stable. It's going to be holding not just plants, but beauty. Once it's mounted, the magic begins. The spokes form a natural web of connection points for twine garden wire or string. You can create geometric patterns by weaving string between the spokes, forming a spiderweb-like grid that climbers will adore. Or you can let the vines do all the work, wrapping themselves around the metal as they reach toward the sun. Cherry tomatoes, sweet peas, climbing nasturtiums, or even miniature gourds all find the spokes inviting and easy to grasp. And as the vines grow, the wheel starts to resemble something between a piece of abstract art and a vintage garden relic. The round shape feels complete, balanced, peaceful. Don't worry about the rust, it's part of the charm. In fact, that aged patina looks gorgeous in contrast to soft greenery and vivid blossoms. Where some people see where gardeners like us see character. And every time you glance at it, you'll see more than just a plant support. You'll see childhood memories, Saturday bike rides, a simpler time now giving back in a different way. It's a gentle reminder that life comes full circle, and that even when we stop moving fast, we still have the power to hold beauty, to offer support, and to help something grow tall. Now here's a twist you might not expect. What if I told you that an old shopping cart, the kind you might find rolling lonesome in a grocery store parking lot, could become one of the most useful and visually stunning trellises in your entire garden? It's true. That wire basket, once used for frozen peas and cartons of milk, can be transformed into a portable growing station, a vertical garden that's both whimsical and wildly practical. Let's start with the basics. Begin by turning the shopping cart on its side so that one of the wire mesh walls becomes a climbing surface. Most carts are already weather-resistant, made of galvanized metal that stands up to rain and sun. If the wheels still work, you're in for a treat. This trellis is mobile. Secure the cart in place or leave it free to move depending on your needs. If you have delicate herbs or shade-loving plants, you can literally roll your cart throughout the day to follow or escape the sun. Need to move your vines closer to the house before a storm? Just wheel it over. Want a centerpiece for your patio party? Voila, your trellis becomes garden art on the go. Now to the planting. The inside of the cart becomes a deep container perfect for trailing plants like cherry tomatoes, basil, or cascading petunias. Meanwhile, the outer mesh provides hundreds of little anchor points for beans, peas, morning glories, or flowering vines to climb. Want to make it even more charming? Add a coat of cheerful spray paint, mint, green, vintage red, or soft lavender, and line the inside with coconut coir or landscape fabric to create a softer look. You can even hang little pots off the sides or wind fairy lights around the handle for evening enchantment. The beauty of this trellis is how little it asks and how much it gives. It reuses something most people overlook. It's easy to maintain, and it meets your plants and your needs where you are. And let's not forget the joy of reinvention. This cart once held groceries for a busy young family, or carried a baby in its seat while mama picked out vegetables. Now it holds life again. Tomatoes ripening in the sun, basil perfuming the air, and vines wrapping their fingers around the past and the present, making something new. That's what we do as we age too. We adapt, we repurpose, we keep rolling forward, even if it's just to find the best patch of sun. You know, the kind, an umbrella with a bent handle, tattered fabric, or a frame that just won't open right anymore. Most people wouldn't give it a second glance. Into the trash it goes. But what if I told you that same broken umbrella could become one of the most poetic garden trellises you've ever seen? Let's breathe some beauty into it together. Start by removing the fabric carefully. You can even save those cloth pieces. They make wonderful garden ties for securing other plants gently to their supports. What you're left with is the bare frame, a graceful dome-shaped skeleton of curved metal arms, reaching upward like a fountain frozen mid-spray. Now here comes the magic. Push the handle firmly into your garden soil 8 to 10 inches deep. It's surprisingly stable once anchored. The spokes, once the bones of your rain protection, now become natural climbing paths for your vines. The whole thing resembles a miniature carousel, delicate and inviting. Plant something soft and vining beneath it, morning glories, sweet peas, or even small cherry tomato varieties. As they grow, they'll twine along the curved arms, creating a living sculpture that spirals toward the sky. The round form is not only beautiful, it also helps channel rainwater down into the soil at the base, right where your roots need it most. You'll be amazed at how quickly the plants take to their new home. Before long, your broken umbrella becomes a blooming dome of color, movement, and life. Bees may flit through it. Neighbors will stop to admire it. And you'll sit with your tea smiling at the wonder of it all. Because what once failed to keep out the rain has now invited growth. There's something deeply symbolic here, isn't there? Just because something no longer functions the way it used to doesn't mean its usefulness has ended. It simply means it's ready for a new chapter. And sometimes the second chapter is more beautiful than the first. Just like us, dear friend. Now here's a garden idea that might raise an eyebrow or two until it takes root in your heart. An old bed spring. Yes, that coiled metal frame you once wrestled down a hallway or dragged out to the curb. It may look like a relic of sleepless nights or childhood bounce sessions, but in the garden, it becomes a stunning, unexpected trellis. If you've ever seen one standing upright in the soft light of evening vines twirling through its coils, you'll understand why I call this one of the most surprising beauties in the garden world. Start with a clean rusted or polished bed spring. Twin-sized is ideal for manageable height, but any size can work depending on your space. Stand it vertically between two sturdy posts, fence panels, or even leaned up against your garden shed. Anchor it firmly. This frame was built to hold weight, and in your garden it'll be holding layers of leafy joy. The springs themselves offer perfect spacing and grip for climbers. Clematis, morning glories, passion flower, even squash or gourds, if you have the strength to support them, these plants seem to intuitively know how to wrap and stretch between the metal spirals. Each coil becomes a stepping stone toward the sky. Here's where things get truly magical, the visual contrast. The industrial structured feel of the metal against the softness of greenery and blooms. It's artful. It's unexpected. It turns your garden into a gallery. And when the sun hits it just right, casting those loopy shadows across the soil or your garden bench, it feels like a sculpture that moves with the season. What I love most about using a bed spring is the symbolism. This was once something that held rest dreams, childhood stories. Now it holds living things. It transforms function into inspiration. And in a world that moves fast, there's something deeply comforting about giving an object time to rediscover its purpose. You might even find yourself brushing your hand across the coils as you pass by, remembering the creak of bedtime stories or the rustle of clean sheets. Those memories linger. And in the garden, they bloom. Because transformation doesn't just happen in the soil. It happens in us. And sometimes all it takes is a little courage to stand something upright, give it space, and let it grow into something new. There's a quiet kind of satisfaction in saving something heavy and worn from the scrap heap, especially when it's a wooden pallet. You know, the ones rough, splintered, maybe even stained with the marks of long ago shipments. To many, they're just junk behind a warehouse. But to a gardener with imagination, they're raw, rustic treasure. A single pallet, when turned upright, becomes an instant vertical garden. And not just a trellis, but a garden wall with endless possibilities. Start by choosing a pallet that's still in decent shape. A light sanding will take care of any sharp edges or splinters. Your hands and your vines will thank you. Once it's smooth, you can seal it with a weather-resistant stain or paint it a cheery garden color. I've seen some in soft sage green, others in robin's egg blue, and even a few bold ones in sunflower yellow. Let it reflect your garden's personality. Stand the pallet upright and secure it with a couple of stakes driven into the ground, or lean it against a fence or wall. The horizontal slats provide ready-made climbing channels for vines like peas beans or sweet peas. Tuck trailing plants like nasturtiums or petunias in small pots along the base or in the pallet gaps. You can even attach hanging containers or mason jars filled with herbs directly to the slats. Here's a favorite idea of mine: tuck landscape fabric behind each level to create planting pockets. Fill them with soil and you've got an upright garden bed perfect for lettuce, strawberries, or herbs. It's like a garden bookshelf, every level offering a little surprise. What's especially lovely about pallet trellises is their accessibility. No stooping, no digging. You can tend, trim, and water everything from a standing position. For aging backs and knees, that's no small gift. And the pallet itself, once a symbol of labor and heavy lifting, becomes something entirely different. It becomes a canvas for beauty, a stage for growth. It stands not just as support, but as a reminder that even the roughest, most overlooked things still hold purpose. Just like people, pallets may carry scars and dents. But those marks don't ruin them. They give them character. They tell the story of a journey and now a new beginning. So next time you see one by the roadside or behind a garden center, don't pass it by. Bring it home. Let it bloom. There's something timeless about an old screen door, the kind that once creaked open onto a shaded porch, with summer breezes blowing through and the smell of fresh pie cooling on the windowsill. Even when its hinges are rusted and its meshes torn, a screen door still holds the memory of welcome, of movement, of home. Now imagine that same door standing proud in your garden, not as an entryway, but as a trellis. It's a transformation that feels almost poetic. Start with any old screen door you can find at a thrift store salvage yard, or even from your own past remodels. The frame, whether wood or metal, provides a strong and steady structure. The mesh screen, if still intact, offers a fine, intricate surface for delicate tendrils to grip onto. Sweet peas, clematis, or even climbing nasturtiums will find their footing quickly on this woven grid. Before placing your screen door in the garden, take a moment to give it a gentle cleaning. Remove any leftover hardware like the handle or hinges, unless you want to leave them for that nostalgic touch. If you're feeling creative, give it a fresh coat of paint. White for a cottage feel, teal for a pop of color, or leave it weathered and worn for that vintage charm we gardeners treasure. Now position it where it can shine. Lean it against a garden shed, stand it beside your vegetable bed, or secure it between two upright posts to create a freestanding trellis wall. As your plants grow up and across, something beautiful begins to happen. The door no longer leads into a house, but into a story. And here's a bonus. As the sun moves across the sky, the screen creates a lovely patchwork of shadows on the ground, dancing with the breeze. It's not just a trellis, it's garden theater. More than that, it reminds us that doors don't only open or close, they also hold space. This screen door, once passed through 100 times without thought, now becomes a place to pause, to grow, to reflect. In the garden, it's not about what something was. It's about what it can become when given the chance. So let your screen door stand again, proud and weathered. Let it carry vines instead of visitors. Let it prove that beauty still passes through. Now, here's a twist that might just make you smile. What if a pair of old crutches once used to support you during healing could now support your garden? It sounds unlikely, I know, but once you see it, you'll wonder why you never thought of it before. These aluminum crutches, adjustable, lightweight, and surprisingly sturdy, are about to become one of the most versatile trellis systems you've ever had the pleasure of using. Start by pulling them out of the attic or thrift store bin. Wipe them down and inspect the parts. Most crutches have rubber tips on the bottom, perfect for anchoring into soft garden soil without slipping or rusting. Better still, they adjust in height. That means you can customize them based on what you're growing, from short herbs to tall climbing beans. For individual use, push one crutch firmly into the soil beside a tall plant that needs support, like tomatoes, delphiniums, or sunflowers. Use soft ties or strips of recycled fabric to gently secure the stem to the crutch at several points. The shape of the crutch with its underarm pad and hand grip actually makes it easy to loop and tie multiple vines with minimal effort. But here's where things get truly creative. Take two crutches and face them toward each other, then tie them together at the top with garden rope wire or even a vintage scarf. You've now created a lovely arch, a functional and adjustable garden structure. Plant sweet peas beans or passion flower at the base of each crutch and watch as they race upward to meet at the top. What I love most about this project is the symbolism. Crutches were once a sign of limitation, a period of slowing down. But here they become a framework for growth. There's something so meaningful about giving a tool that once helped you heal a chance to now help something else grow. And let's not forget the practicality. Aluminum doesn't rust like many other metals. These are built to withstand the elements and the weight of time. They're easy to move, adjust, and store. For gardeners with limited mobility, the ergonomic design is a blessing. You don't have to strain or overreach, just let the crutches do what they were always meant to do, offer support. So the next time you see an old pair in a secondhand shop or leaning in the garage corner, think twice. They may have carried you once, but now they can carry your garden. Some items carry more than dust and wood grain, they carry memories. And few things hold as much heart as an old baby crib. Maybe it once sat in your child's nursery, or maybe you found it at a thrift store, its rails gently worn by time. Either way, that crib doesn't have to be retired just yet. In fact, it's ready for a brand new chapter in the garden. Let's focus on the sides of the crib, the slatted panels that once kept a little one safe. Those vertical bars, evenly spaced and built to be sturdy, are absolutely perfect for a garden trellis. Start by separating one or both rail panels from the rest of the crib frame. You can use just one panel leaned against a fence or wall, or set up two side by side with wooden posts for a freestanding trellis display. They're typically around 4 feet high, ideal for climbing beans, peas, cucumbers, or flowering vines like clematis or morning glories. If you're feeling creative, you might want to paint the rails. Soft sage green or dusty rose adds cottage charm, while weathered white or robin's egg blue brings a sweet vintage appeal. Or leave it bare and let time do the decorating. Sun, rain, and vines will give it a finish more beautiful than any brush could offer. What makes crib rails so special is how naturally they invite growth. The spacing is perfect for weaving in plant ties. The height is gentle on the back, no reaching too high or stooping too low. And the shape offers just enough structure without overpowering your garden. But the real beauty of this idea, it's the story. This was once a place of nurturing, of lullabies, of tiny hands gripping those rails in the early light of morning. And now it becomes a space where new life continues to be nurtured, only this time in leaf and flower. If the crib once belonged to your family, this project becomes even more meaningful. Imagine your grandchild planting sweet peas beneath the same rail that once held their mother or father as a baby. It's a full circle moment. Growth from the past feeding growth in the present. And even if the crib comes from a secondhand shop, it still carries the spirit of care and gentleness. That spirit stays with it even as it blossoms with new purpose in your garden. Because nothing truly outgrows its usefulness. Sometimes all it needs is a little sunshine and someone like you to believe in its second life. Now let's talk about something small, humble, and often overlooked: a broken garden rake. You know the one. Its wooden handle may have splintered, or maybe it finally gave out after years of gathering autumn leaves. And now just the metal head remains a crescent of rusty tines that most people would toss without a second thought. But not you. Because once you see it with gardener's eyes, that rake head becomes something else entirely. It becomes one of the most charming little trellises you can add to your space, especially perfect for compact gardens, balcony nooks, or sunny corners near a shed. Here's how to bring this quiet beauty back to life. Take the rake head and clean it gently. A bit of wire brushing will remove loose rust, but don't feel the need to strip it clean. That aged patina adds to the charm. Now mount it to a fence wall or even a wooden board using screws or heavy-duty hooks. Position the tines pointing upward like fingers reaching for the sky. Each tine becomes a perfect support for a trailing vine or climbing herb. Plant something fragrant and delicate, perhaps sweet peas, creeping thyme, or trailing oregano right below. As the vines grow, they'll find their way between the tines, climbing up like ribbons, twirling around the fingers of an old friend. You can also hang small terracotta pots from the tines using garden twine. Fill them with trailing herbs or even succulents, and suddenly your rake becomes a vertical herb rack, both beautiful and practical. The beauty of this idea lies in its simplicity. It doesn't take space, it doesn't require bending building or heavy lifting, and yet it transforms a forgotten tool into a quiet celebration of growth and purpose. There's something poetic, isn't there, about a tool that once gathered fallen things, now helping lift something up. A rake that once scraped the ground, now supports life climbing skyward. What a tender reversal. It's a reminder that no matter how small the piece, how rusted the tool, there's still beauty to be made. Still use to be found. And for those of us who've seen many seasons, who know what it means to feel worn but not wasted, this little rakehead becomes more than garden decor. It becomes a symbol that even the simplest things, once loved, once useful, can bloom again when given just a little care and a place to stand. Every once in a while you come across an idea so whimsical, so charming, that it stops you in your tracks and makes you smile. For me, that moment happened the day I turned a vintage suitcase into a garden trellis. Yes, an actual suitcase. Maybe it belonged to someone who traveled across the country in the 1960s. Maybe it once sat beneath a bed filled with photo albums and keepsakes. Or maybe, like many of us, it simply outlived its usefulness as travel gear. But in the garden, it finds a second life full of purpose, beauty, and storytelling. To begin, choose a hard-shell suitcase. The older the better. Thrift stores and estate sales are full of them. Open it up and secure the lid at a 90-degree angle using small metal brackets or garden stakes. What you've created is a beautiful corner trellis structure, sturdy at the base, vertical in the back. Line the bottom half with landscape fabric or a plastic liner, then fill it with good garden soil. It becomes a planting container deep enough for root vegetables like carrots or radishes, or a mix of lettuce and herbs. Then stretch chicken wire or garden mesh across the open lid, or string twine in a crisscross pattern to form a climbing net. Now plant something vining like sweet peas, pole beans, or climbing nasturtiums at the base of the upright lid. As they grow, they'll climb upward, transforming the suitcase into a blooming memory box. The soft greenery paired with the worn fabric or leather tells a story in every leaf. You could even personalize it further, tuck in a garden journal label the side with a family name, or attach an old luggage tag to make it feel like a piece of living history. What I love most about this project is how much joy it brings. Guests always stop to ask about it. Children are fascinated. It becomes a conversation starter, a memory trigger, and a functional garden feature all in one. And for those of us in our golden years, it holds even deeper meaning. This suitcase, once a symbol of journeys past, now nurtures new growth. Its handles may no longer carry it across cities, but it still carries life. So dust off that old suitcase in your attic, give it soil, give it sunlight, and give it one more chance to bloom. Because sometimes the most unexpected containers hold the richest harvests and the most beautiful stories. Have you ever taken down an old curtain rod and paused just for a moment with it in your hands? Maybe it once framed sunlit windows or held back floral drapes in a quiet living room. Now, long after its indoor life has ended, it's ready to serve once again. But this time outdoors, where breezes are wilder and the curtains are made of leaves and vines. That old curtain rod, particularly the metal kind, makes for a perfect garden arch. And I promise you, once you try this, you'll never look at discarded hardware the same way again. Start by collecting 2 or 3 curtain rods, depending on the length and how grand you'd like your arch to be. If the rods are extendable, that's even better. You can adjust them for width or height. Choose a spot where you'd like your plants to greet you, maybe over a garden path beside your porch, or even leading into your vegetable patch like a soft green doorway. Drive 2 strong stakes or poles into the soil on either side of your path or bed. Then attach the curtain rod across the top, gently bending it into a soft arc if it's flexible, or simply leaving it straight for a rustic arbor look. Secure the ends with wire or weatherproof screws. Once your arch is in place, the planting begins. Consider sweet peas for fragrance, scarlet runner beans for color, or even morning glories if you like the surprise of new blooms each day. As the vines climb upward, you'll see your simple rod transformed into a living archway, lush, romantic, and deeply satisfying. And if your curtain rod came with finials, the decorative ends, don't throw them out. Attach them to the top of the arch for an elegant touch. Suddenly your trellis isn't just a structure, it's a statement. This project is especially gentle for gardeners with limited mobility. The vines will grow tall while your hands stay comfortably low. Watering and pruning can be done from the side, and the arch itself can be built without lifting anything heavy. And as you pass beneath this arch day after day, it becomes something more than garden support. It becomes a reminder that life arches too. That things fall down only to rise again in new forms. That even an old curtain rod forgotten in the back of a closet can lift something beautiful skyward when it's given just one more chance. You, dear friend, are not done blooming either. Ah, the old wooden chair. Maybe it sat at your kitchen table for decades. Maybe it belonged to your parents, or maybe you spotted it at a yard sale, worn smooth by time and stories. One leg might be wobbly, the seat cracked, but pause before tossing it to the curb. Because that chair back with its graceful slats and carved curves can become a beautiful little trellis, charming, compact, and full of personality. Start by carefully removing the chair's back from the rest of the frame. Most older chairs are built solidly, so you may need a screwdriver or small saw depending on how it's assembled. Don't worry about perfect edges. This is rustic beauty at its finest. Now take that chair back and decide where it might bring the most delight. You can mount it on a fence, lean it against a wall, or even sink the lower end slightly into the soil for a freestanding effect. The vertical bars or carved spindles are already in place, ready to support delicate climbers with grace. What should you grow here? This trellis is best suited for gentle, lightweight plants, sweet peas, miniature morning glories, or even ivy. Picture green tendrils curling between each spindle or soft pink blossoms peeking through the worn woodwork. Want to add a personal touch? Give the chair back a coat of garden-safe paint, perhaps in an antique white or pale lavender. Or leave it raw and let the sun, rain, and time continue painting it in their own soft brush strokes. What's lovely about this idea is how manageable it is. No lifting, no bending. Just place it where it feels right and let nature take care of the rest. Even the smallest balcony or shady corner can welcome a chair-back bloom frame. But the real treasure is the story it tells. This was once a seat at the table. A place where someone sat, maybe laughed, maybe prayed, maybe watched the seasons pass outside the window. And now it stands again, not to hold a person, but to hold life. That's the gentle poetry of gardening in our golden years. We don't always need to buy something new. Often we already have everything we need right there in the shed, in the attic, in the garage. Sometimes the best trellises come not from hardware stores, but from memories. So take a seat, or rather give one a new purpose. Let your chair back stand tall again, this time wrapped in flowers. There's something soulful about an old garden gate. Maybe it once marked the entrance to a little cottage yard, or swung open 1,000 times to welcome barefoot children and muddy dogs. And even if it's now off its hinges, leaning against a wall or tucked away behind the shed, it still holds an invitation. And what better invitation than to let it bloom again, not as a barrier, but as a trellis. Start by pulling out that gate wooden wrought iron or even wire mesh. Most are already the perfect size for vertical gardening, tall enough to give height, wide enough for structure, and strong enough to hold climbers with ease. A gate knows how to stand. It just needs a place to do so again. If the gate has hinges, remove them. If it's rusted, give it a gentle brushing, but don't scrub away the character. The flaking paint, the mossy corners, the soft warp of the wood. Those are features, not flaws. To set it up in your garden, simply secure it between 2 sturdy posts, or lean it against a fence or wall. If the bottom is uneven, stake it into the ground to keep it stable. The vertical bars or panels are perfect for encouraging sweet peas, black-eyed Susans, or even grapevines to climb. Want to give it extra charm? Hang a little metal sign, perhaps "Welcome" or "Grow Here." You can even attach a pair of small terracotta pots near the base filled with herbs or cheerful marigolds. The beauty of using a garden gate as a trellis isn't just in how it looks, though it will turn heads. It's in what it represents. This was once a threshold, a place where someone paused, a space between the outside world and home. Now it becomes a canvas for green growth, a symbol of transition that welcomes not people but petals. And for those of us in the later seasons of life, perhaps this gate speaks to us in a different way. We too have opened and closed, weathered storms, and creaked with time. But here we are, still standing, still offering beauty, still inviting life through. So don't throw out that old gate. Let it rise again, adorned in blossoms, standing as a gentle reminder that every ending can become a new beginning when planted with care. Some pieces of furniture are simply too beautiful to be forgotten, even if they no longer serve their original purpose. And among those few are as graceful and garden-ready as a wrought iron headboard. With its curls and scrolls, its elegant loops and sturdy frame, a vintage metal headboard practically begs to be repurposed. And in the garden, it becomes a trellis, so striking, so poetic, it feels like something from a storybook. To begin, find an old iron headboard. Thrift stores, flea markets, or even the back corner of your attic may be hiding one. It doesn't need to be perfect. In fact, a little rust or chipping paint just adds charm. Wipe it down, but don't strip away its character. That aged patina will contrast beautifully with vibrant green leaves and delicate blooms. Now choose its new home. Stand the headboard vertically in your garden bed or against a fence. You can secure it by driving the legs a few inches into the soil or anchoring it with rebar or stakes behind. If it's especially ornate, consider placing it where it will be seen and admired, perhaps behind a bench or at the entrance to your garden path. Once it's in place, plant your climbers. Clematis roses, jasmine, or even pole beans will twine naturally through the curves and openings. The metal frame provides strong support, while the design gives your plants something to wrap around, peek through, and frame their blooms. Want to take it a step further? Add a solar lantern, a trailing ivy basket at the base, or even a small sign with a favorite quote. These little touches turn your headboard trellis into a vertical garden centerpiece. But here's what I love most about this transformation. It feels like a love letter to the past. That headboard may have once stood behind a child's first bed, or been part of a guest room where laughter echoed and stories were shared. Now it holds something new, sunlight petals life, and yet the feeling is the same. Comfort, beauty, a sense of quiet belonging. And maybe that's why it feels so special. Because we know deep down that beauty doesn't end when purpose shifts. It just changes form. Like us, dear friend. We've held many roles, worn many labels, and now in this golden season we are free to simply support, to hold, to bloom. So let that headboard stand again, tall, proud, and full of grace, just like you. Let's take a fresh look at something you probably already have in your garden shed, a humble tomato cage. It may be a little bent, maybe one leg is slightly crooked from last season's harvest, but don't count it out just yet. With one simple twist, literally, you can turn it into a charming vertical trellis that feels like it came straight out of a garden design magazine. Here's the trick, just flip it upside down. That's right. Take your wire tomato cage, turn it so the widest ring is on the bottom and the pointed legs face up. Suddenly, it's no longer a cage, it's a tower. A beautiful cone-shaped trellis that's both functional and eye-catching. Now let's dress it up a bit. If you want to add a touch of elegance, consider attaching a decorative finial garden ornament or even a wooden knob to the very top. This gives it the feel of a little garden obelisk, something sculptural, not just structural. Secure the base by anchoring the wide ring into the soil with garden staples or bricks placed around the bottom. Then plant something with climbing ambitions at the base. Sweet peas, mini gourds, morning glories, or even passion flower. As they grow, they'll spiral upward, wrapping around the legs like nature's own ribbon. You can also add string or twine horizontally between the legs to help delicate climbers grip more easily, especially in the early stages. What's so satisfying about this project is how easy it is. There's no hammering, no sawing, no complicated materials. Just a simple reimagining of something you already own. And the result, a trellis that looks intentional, artistic, and far more high-end than you'd expect from an upside-down cage. It's a quiet little secret we gardeners share, that beauty often comes from simplicity, from looking at what we already have and asking, what else could this be? And isn't that the heart of aging with grace? Turning things upside down, not to discard them, but to see them anew. To discover that usefulness, charm, and purpose were there all along, just waiting to be viewed from a different angle. So go ahead, flip the script, or in this case, flip the cage. Sometimes the most surprising garden treasures come from the most unexpected places, like the front of an old dresser drawer. You know the ones, decorative wood panels with carved or lattice designs, perhaps once part of a beloved bedroom set, now collecting dust in the garage. Before you toss them out or donate the whole piece, pause for a moment. Because those drawer fronts, especially the ones with open cutwork or panel insets, can become beautiful little trellises with minimal effort and maximum charm. Start by removing the drawer front from the rest of the piece. You may need a screwdriver to detach the handle or loosen any corner brackets. What you're left with is a rectangular frame, often with built-in slats or open designs, perfect for small space vertical gardening. Now, where to use it? Mount one drawer front on a garden wall fence post, or even attach it to a wooden stake and place it freestanding in a pot. If you have multiple drawer fronts with matching dimensions, arrange them in a grid pattern for a lovely vintage panel wall that grows greenery through every gap. These drawer fronts are best suited for lightweight vines and trailing plants, think sweet peas, small clematis, or edible flowers like nasturtiums. If the panel has horizontal bars, herbs like thyme and oregano will trail over with delicate grace. And here's a sweet little touch: if the drawer still has a handle or knob, leave it in place and use it as a hook. Hang a miniature pot from it, drape a garden tag, or tie a strip of ribbon from an old scarf. It adds personality, your personality. If you enjoy painting, this is a perfect canvas. A soft pastel or creamy antique white blends beautifully with garden colors. Or you can embrace the natural wood and let age and weather shape its finish. Either way, the drawer front becomes a piece of living artwork. The beauty of this project lies not only in its simplicity, but in its story. This drawer once held linens, letters, or keepsakes. It carried weight and purpose indoors. And now it carries life outdoors. It's a reminder that even things that seem too specific, too worn, too done, can find a new place in the sun. Just like us, they don't need to be repurposed perfectly, they just need to be seen differently. So the next time you pass by an old dresser at a yard sale or look at one in your own attic, pause, pull open the drawer, and imagine it blooming. There's something wonderfully nostalgic about an old laundry drying rack. It might remind you of childhood days when linens dried in the breeze, or of small apartments where every inch of space mattered. But in the garden, that same folding frame, lightweight, portable, and filled with open bars, becomes something else entirely. It becomes a bloom tower. A folding laundry rack, especially the wooden or metal accordion kind, makes a surprisingly elegant and functional trellis, one that's especially friendly for small spaces and for those of us who prefer gardening while standing upright. Start by unfolding the rack and placing it in your garden bed patio corner, or even on a sunny balcony. If it feels a little too lightweight, secure the base with garden staples bricks or decorative stones around the feet. You'd be amazed at how stable it becomes once planted with vines. Now comes the fun part, planting. Because of the multiple horizontal bars, this structure is perfect for growing multiple varieties of light climbers, sweet peas, black-eyed Susan vine nasturtiums, or even trailing cherry tomatoes. You can plant different seeds at the base of each side and watch them climb independently, forming a vertical bouquet that changes week by week. If you want to take it a step further, weave ribbon or twine between the bars to give additional grip points for younger plants. Or hang miniature pots from the crossbars using S-hooks, perfect for trailing herbs or tiny trailing petunias. And when the season ends, simply fold the rack flat and store it with ease. It takes up almost no space, ideal for those of us working with limited storage or smaller garden footprints. But what really makes this trellis special isn't just its practicality. It's the gentle sense of reuse and reinvention. A laundry rack was once used to dry and freshen the fabrics of daily life. Now it freshens your space in a new way through fragrance, bloom, and life. It's a symbol of quiet transformation. A gentle nod to the fact that even tools of the everyday, the domestic, the routine, can become extraordinary when placed in the right light. And maybe as we grow older, we come to appreciate things like that even more. Not because they're flashy, but because they're steady, adaptable, willing to stand again and again in service of something new. So unfold that old laundry rack, dear friend. Let it stand proud under the sun, and let your blooms climb just like your creativity always has. Sometimes the most graceful trellis in your garden doesn't come from the tool shed, but from the attic. If you've ever come across an old wire lampshade frame stripped of its fabric, maybe with a little rust on the edges, don't toss it. That delicate skeleton is just waiting to bloom. With its natural curves and open framework, it's one of the easiest and most enchanting trellis ideas you'll ever try. To begin, remove any remaining fabric or lining from the lampshade. What you want is the bare metal frame. These come in all shapes, round, conical, or oval, and every one of them brings its own charm to the garden. If it's particularly aged, give it a light brushing, but don't worry about the rust. That weathered look is part of the magic. Now flip it upside down with the wider end touching the soil. If it has a central metal post that once held the bulb fixture, that piece can now serve as a built-in planting anchor. Simply push the post into the dirt or secure the base with small garden stakes or rocks. If the frame is especially lightweight, consider placing it in a pot for a portable blooming sculpture. Plant delicate climbers at the base. Think sweet peas, miniature morning glories, or trailing nasturtiums. As they grow, the vines will wind their way through the open metal, creating a living lantern of color and texture. By midsummer, it will look as though your flowers are floating in midair. Want to add a special touch? Place a small solar light inside the center of the frame. At dusk, your lampshade trellis will softly glow like a garden lantern made of blossoms and moonlight. The best part: this trellis is almost entirely hands-off. No complicated setup, no bending or drilling, and it works beautifully in both traditional beds and container gardens. But more than that, there's something quietly profound about turning a lampshade once used to bring light indoors into something that now celebrates the light of nature. That old frame, which might have once stood in a cozy living room or by a bedside table, now stands under open sky. Its new job: to hold up beauty, to cradle growth, to let light and life pour through its bones. And perhaps it reminds us of ourselves, how time may strip us down to the essentials, but even then, we're still capable of holding beauty, of letting things bloom through us, of glowing from within. So place that frame gently in the earth and watch it rise again. Here's a delightful surprise: an old standing coat rack, once the silent sentinel of your hallway, can become a whimsical and practical centerpiece for your garden. With its multiple hooks and slender frame, a vintage coat rack is like a natural vertical garden in waiting, designed to hold, hang, and support just like your plants need. First, find a sturdy, weather-resistant coat rack. Wood, metal, or wrought iron all work beautifully. If it's been tucked away indoors for years, bring it outside and give it a gentle clean. You might consider applying a protective outdoor finish, especially if it's wooden, to help it stand up to rain and sun. Place the coat rack in a sunny corner of your garden patio or balcony. Each hook instantly becomes a hanger for small pots. Think trailing herbs like thyme, oregano, or even colorful petunias and ivy. You can hang lightweight trellises or baskets filled with trailing plants from these hooks, creating a cascading effect all around the rack. For more vertical support, string twine or garden wire between the hooks and poles, encouraging climbing vines such as sweet peas or morning glories to spiral upward. The coat rack's height and slender profile make it ideal for small spaces and accessible gardening, allowing you to tend your plants without bending or reaching far. What makes this project truly special is the symbolism. That coat rack, once used to welcome guests and hold warm coats, now welcomes life and growth. It stands tall, offering shelter and support, not from the cold, but from the sun and sky. As you walk past it, imagine the stories it holds. Conversations, laughter, quiet moments, and know that its new chapter is just as meaningful. A standing invitation to pause, breathe, and appreciate the gentle beauty of repurposed things. In our own lives, we too take on new roles, supporting holding and nurturing in ways we never imagined. The coat rack trellis reminds us that even when our purpose shifts, we still stand strong, ready to hold the next bloom. So, embrace the charm of the coat rack. Let it stand proud heavy with pots and flowers, a beacon of second chances and endless creativity. As we draw our gentle journey to a close, I hope you feel the quiet magic of what we've explored together, the extraordinary power of giving forgotten things, new purpose of watching life climb and bloom in the most unexpected places. From broken umbrellas that become domes of morning glories to vintage suitcases cradling sweet peas and carrots. Each trellis we've shared carries a story. They are stories of renewal, resilience, and the beauty of transformation, not just for our gardens, but for ourselves. In many ways, these trellises mirror our own paths. Just as these old objects find new life in soil and sunlight, we too grow and flourish with time. Our hands, though weathered, still create. Our hearts, though seasoned, still dream. And our spirits, though tempered, still hold wonder. Gardening in our golden years is about more than plants. It's about possibility, the possibility to see potential where others see waste, to nurture growth in all forms, and to find joy in gentle creativity. It's about embracing imperfection and celebrating the stories woven between rust and bloom, between past and present. So, dear friend, which idea sparked that warm "I could do that" feeling in your heart? Is there an old ladder waiting in your garage? A forgotten rake head or a battered suitcase calling out for a second chance? I'd love to hear your thoughts and stories in the comments below, because this community thrives on sharing inspiration and the simple pleasure of growing together. If this journey through recycled garden trellises has brought a smile or stirred a spark, please give this video a gentle thumbs up. And if you haven't already, join our family of creative gardeners by subscribing and ringing the notification bell. Together, we'll keep discovering new ways to let wisdom meet wonder in the garden of life. Until next time, remember, nothing is ever truly discarded. It's simply waiting for its moment to bloom again. Keep growing, keep creating, and keep believing in the magic of second chances. With warmth and quiet joy, your friend at Golden Seniors Living.